Okay, when we talk about restrictions and in a rational, what is the one thing you can't do with fractions? You can't divide by 0. That's a problem, dividing by 0. Okay, so that's all I'm looking for, just the bottom, just the bottom. So what x value would not be allowed because it makes the bottom be 0? -7. On this one, I can't have x be 0, or the bottom would be 0. This, I'd have to do some work, so I'd have to factor it, and I recognize it as not a GCF, a complex trinomial. So I'm going to go FLA is -8. And I'm going to use a 1 and an 8 here to get a 7. So I know that the first has to be 2x and x, because that's it. So do you know how you're going to put stuff together to make an 8 and a 1? Do you see it? 8 and 1. Plus 8 minus 1. So you're going to have two answers. So this one will be a fraction. Okay, so all that is old stuff. You know how to do it. It's just what does the restriction part mean? You just can't be 0 on the bottom. Okay, that's good. Okay, reducing, multiplying, dividing, all that stuff. So make sure you factor as much as you can. So this one is done. Simple trinomial there. Go ahead. Difference of squares. Okay, so look at how did your factoring go. You had 3 different styles there, the simple, the difference, and the GCF. Okay, so I'm going to look out for top-bottom multiplier dividers that cancel, so x minus 5. We've got 1 on the top and bottom. X plus 5. X minus 1. That's it. So the whole top canceled. So 1 on the top. And on the bottom, an x. Okay, so when I do this one, I'm going to go, well, I recognize a complex trinomial there. Here I have a simple trinomial. This one is done. There's nothing to do. And this one is a negative. negative out. Okay, that one's a hard one to recognize because that's kind of our new one. And we're also going to be flipping that, right? So those are the things I'm going to think about. Okay, can I help you with this complex trinomial in the sense that I'm not going to full number it? I'm just going to go at it. So I know the last because you have to get a 1 at the end. So that means there's a 1, 1. So now it's kind of a trial strategy. Should we put a 4, 1 or a 2, 2? What do you think to make that 4 in the middle? 4 and 1 would make 4 and 1, which is 5 or 3. So 2x, 2x. So do you see how it was complex, but I kind of used a little bit of just guess and check because there wasn't much for options. Okay, multiples to 12. I'm going to use a 3 times 4 set. Okay, so there's the flip. Negative out. -1 bracket. Now I can go x, and then the number is a -3, -3. Okay? This is the number 1 loss of points on this test for all my past classes. That negative out situation, not recognizing it. Okay, I can cross that off, cross that off. Cancel, cancel. That's it. No. I just wanted to pinpoint something though. Make sure your -1 looks like it's multiplying and not subtracting. So somebody that wanted to multiply like just a bunch of things, these were all supposed to be multiplied. This looks like subtraction. So that is multiplication. Do you see a difference? Just a bracket adds it to multiply. Okay, last example. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is look at the digits. So there's a 16 and a -4. So I'm going to cancel by dividing each by a -4. So dividing by -4 is -4. Dividing by -4 is what? We're going to look at just the x's. There's an x6 and an x, so those could both be divided by just an x. So this would become x5, and that would be gone, or 1, whatever. A y and a y7, so I'm going to divide by y, divide by y. So this would become a y6. So after I've canceled, that's what I have left. Okay, adding and subtracting. So you need to make sure everything is factored out first. Okay, so once you have that done, you go to the common denominator and you pick what do you need to have in there to make sure everything's included. So the x plus 5, x minus 3, and I need an x plus 6. So I don't need that x minus 3 twice because this could fit, this can fit. I can put my finger on each, and then I can do that there, each. Okay, then you go through the system of look at the bottom, look at the new bottom. What did you change the bottom by? Then you change the top by that. Look at the bottom, look at the new bottom. What changed on the bottom? Then you change the top. Okay, so on your test I'm grading for, did you factor correctly? Did you pick the correct denominator? Did you pick the correct multipliers? And then, did you do your just math properly? So, distribute. So 6x squared plus 36x. And then, here's where I catch the mistakes on the next one. I know somebody's going to do it, so don't make it you. That's the spot that people forget. Make sure that negative goes through and through, okay? So simplifying will just mean just collect stuff on the top if there's anything to collect. Okay, bottom question, I need you to start with your factorings. So this one's going to be something where you double factor, by the way. So on the first one, I did a GCF and a simple. Would you recognize both of those? Do you remember in that factoring unit where I said it's just going to keep coming back and you're just going to keep factoring everywhere? Okay, now you need to decide what to put in your denominator so that everything can fit. So an m minus 2, an m minus 1. So obviously the first one fits. And then to make this next one fit, I also need an m plus 2. Okay, bottom, new bottom. The change was the m plus 2. Bottom, new bottom, so we have two things that changed, which is an m and an m minus 1. Okay, 3 things were in this now. There was a something times something times something. 3 things. Over and over again, I keep saying this, but sometimes mistakes are still happening. When you times 3 things, you pick 2 of them. So there's me just picking two of them. This is going to make m squared minus m. Done. Pick two, finalize that. Then times it. So plus 7m squared minus 7m. Okay, there's going to be a spot on your test where you're having those three things being multiplied. So again, just pick two things. Do all the multiplying with those, finalize it, then when you're done that, take it to the next. Bless you. Okay, and again, on my last step there, I just collected, there wasn't much, there was just the 4m minus the 7m. Okay, complex. Okay, whenever I see just numbers involved with fractions, I like to write them over 1. Okay, so we're going to just work with this top stuff. So this has a bottom 5 and this has a bottom 1. So I'm going to have to put them both as over 5. Okay, so then if this was over 5, nothing happened to it. X. If this has to turn into a 5, then this would have to turn into a 10. Okay, so now to this one, this has a 20 on the bottom and this has a 1 on the bottom. So common, you're going to have to pick 20. So I'm going to do nothing to this one. And then this one, I'm going to have to times the bottom by 20. Okay, so that's one part. Now, fraction divided by fraction, you're going to have to turn this all into a flip multiply stuff. So the first fraction, instead of dividing by the other one, I'm going to times, flip. Okay, I'm going to look at the 20 and the 5 because I'm going to divide by 5. Do you understand that you can't cancel here? Do you understand that? Okay, you can't cancel there because those are adders. That's considered an adder. So what I'm going to do is do a difference of squares on that. Then I can cross off the number x plus 10 with the number x plus 10. Okay? Otherwise, I couldn't do that before. And there's my final answer. And again, I do get those people who want to still cancel stuff here, but you can't cancel just the 4 and the 10 part because this isn't just a 10, it's an x minus 10. That's the number, not just 10, x minus 10. Okay, with solving, I gave you two big ideas. I said you should either cross multiply or common denominator drop. So this would be one where I'm going to pick cross multiply. You see it? because there's one fraction and one fraction. Okay, give me some distribution stuff on your own. Okay, what do you do? Because right now I can see two variables. There's x squareds and x's in this. So what do you have to do if there's two variables? You need to equal 0. Okay, as soon as you see two variables involved, there's an equal 0 needing to happen. So I'm going to minus x squared, and I'm going to minus 11x, and do a 0 on one side. Okay, if you only see one variable, like anything is just x's or something, you can isolate, right? Okay, so now that I have this, I should recognize my strategies. Can I factor this? Is it one of my styles? It is. It's a GCF. 5x. And before I finalize that, I should double check that it is allowed. What is not allowed here? 3/2 is not allowed, or -11 is not allowed. So that means those ones would be okay. Okay? If it was a non-permissible value, I would just put X over it to say it's not allowed. Okay, so this one here is going to be the common denominator drop one. So to start that off, I'm going to do a factor, a GCF factor on this one. Okay, so once I have that factored, I'm going to pick the same bottom everywhere. So this side and this side are both going to have bottoms that are the same. There we go. They both have the same bottom. I picked the common. Okay, you have to go through all three fractions now. Looking at the bottoms and the new bottoms, what is changing? So the first fraction only had a 1 on the bottom. So it changed by this and by this. The second fraction had everything. The third fraction got changed by an x. Okay, for this one, again, there's something, something, and something, so I'm going to pick two of them. So this was x squared plus x. And also, right, it was just that one right there, x squared plus x. and times 2. How did that go? Timesing those two and then that. Minus 1, because we didn't do anything to that. And then 3x. So we're just going to go a math property. If the two sides are equal and the two bottoms are equal, we can say tops also just have to be equal. So there's my equal tops. And then all those strategies. Well, here I see x squareds and x's, so I see 2 variables. So I know I'm going to need a equals 0. Okay, so this is a complex, but we're going to do some trial and error because it's not too hard. 2x and x have to go front because that's the only option I have. 1 times 1 has to be at the end. That's the only option there. But there is going to be a plus and there's a minus. So how are you going to make a minus x out of it? And then we should also double check that we're allowed. So what's not allowed to be? 0 and -1 are not allowed to be, so this is okay. Okay, some word problems up. Okay, so I'm starting with 10 liters. And then all of this, it says it has some antifreeze and water. So this already has antifreeze and water in it. So there's some chemical in it. 30% of it is the antifreeze. So 10 liters times, and then do we know how to do percents as decimals? 0.3. So 10 times 0.3, so we got 3. So there's 3 liters of antifreeze in there. Obviously there's 7 of water, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so here's what we do. How much did we start with? 3. And we're going to add more to make it stronger. We're going to add more to make it stronger. So that's the chemical portion. Now the chemical divided by the fluid that's there. So how much did we start with? 10, and then we added more fluid. And when I say fluid, I don't care if it's antifreeze or water, that's the collection of everything. And at the very end, I want it to be 50%. So you could do a decimal or whatever, but I just do fractions because then every time I can just do a nice cross multiply. Okay, make sure in your brain, does your answer make sense? Adding 4 liters of chemical to make it stronger. If you get negative answers or something like that, make sure you realize something went wrong. Okay, this one is a time rate question. So we have Jacob and John and Jacob and time and rate. Okay, so as I read, it takes John 45 minutes to push mow the yard. So for John, is that the time of working or is that the rate to do a whole job? That's our rate. If Jacob helps, then it takes them 25 minutes. So that is a time. And it's both of them because they're both doing it together then. If Jacob were alone, how long would it take? So that is a rate. Okay, so John's portion, he does 25/45 of the job. And Jacob does 25/X's of the job. John's portion plus Jacob's portion will equal the whole yard. Okay, I'm going to pick common denominator strategy. And I'm going to use a 45x as a bottom. That will work for everything. And then the process. First fraction, what happened to the bottom? An x. Next fraction, what did it change by? It changed by 45. And then the last fraction, it changed by everything. Okay, remember that math strategy you can use if the bottoms are the same, the top's got to be the same. So just the tops. So this is a word problem, so I'm going to add units on there. So make sure you put units on. And then it's in minutes because that's Jacob doing the whole yard alone. Does your answer make sense? Okay, you're using 3 hoses to fill up the pool. Okay, so this question, if you were going to use just the first hose alone, it would take 20 hours to do the pool. So that is going to tell me a rate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to figure out the time for all of them together. Obviously, it's going to be the same number. So each portion that they do will add up to the whole job. Each portion of the job Okay, I'm going to pick a common denominator, and you can technically go 20 times 15 times 25, but it's pretty big. Does anybody have just like a little bit of a smaller number that would work? I think 300 should work with all of them, right? Would that make sense to you? 300? Are all of them divisible by that? Okay, what would you do to change a 20 into a 300? What's that multiplier? You'd have to times it by 15. What do you do to times 15 into a 300? By a 20. And what do you do to change 25 to 300? Times it by 12. Did you notice anytime over here, 1 is the same over the same, 300 over 300. Okay, so top equal top, and it's a simple algebra maneuver, and then don't forget what we're solving for, how many minutes? To fill the pool when they're all going together, yeah? Well, it's definitely got to be less than 15.
It takes longer than it, no, it's
Or hours, hours, sorry.
I was gonna say, if it takes a whole
Duh.
day for.
Yeah, no, that's definitely too fast.
It's gotten some really good hoses.
I know. Well, we filled ours up in like 30 minutes because we have tanks in the back of our yard full of storing water. Okay. Good? Yeah, that was a little bit. Okay, we are gonna go. Okay, I always gotta think here. So, velocity is a distance over a time. Distance equals velocity times time. So the maneuvers of that. Kilometers per hour in your car. That's a speed. Kilometers per hour. Distance, time. Okay, so we're going to be going upstream an amount the same time as going downstream. So this is my key, the same time. Time up equals time down. So I'm going to be using the fraction distance over velocity. Okay, so there's my distance on each. The distance up is this one, the distance down. And then we have a boat moving plus the water current is changing our speed, and then the water is going at 2, speed of 2. Okay, so we have a boat speed, and then we're gonna go upstream. So should I do plus or minus 2? Slowing me down. Slowing me down. Going upstream is slowing me down, and then there. Whatever your boat is first. Yep. What if I gave you the boat speed and you got to figure out the water? I could do that as well, right? You always have to do boat first, because what if somebody did water plus or minus boat speed? You're probably going to get a negative, right? Because if your water is 2 and then you minus the boat speed, that's going to be a negative number. So this is wrong. Make sure you always do boat plus or minus water. Always that order, right? Because if you'd flip that order, you're going to get a negative. Okay, go ahead. Give me a good cross multiply situation here. Okay, so does your answer make sense? Yep. I've had people who, did this the wrong way, and then they were getting a negative answer because they did it the wrong way. So if you're getting a negative speed, go back. You did something wrong. One time I had somebody answering the water speed that was 100 miles per hour. Not good. That was wrong. Something went wrong. Okay, your paper has a couple harder questions on it. Yeah. Okay, amped up questions. There's a few harder ones on your test. Okay, I need you to give me everything factored here. Factor, factor, factor. All 3 of them factor. Okay, everybody's good with their factors matching? Okay, so let's pick a bottom. I need a 3 GCF'd out. I need an x plus 4, an x plus 1, and an x minus 2. Okay, every fraction, here we go. First one, the bottom is different by 3 and by x minus 2. Second fraction, the bottom had, so it's different by a x plus 4 and an x minus 2. The third fraction, it had that, so it's different by a 3 and an x plus 1. So what did I do to you? I gave you a situation to practice multiplying 3 things. That's what I'm doing here. Okay, so what I'm going to do on the first one is I'm going to pick 3 and 7 to make a 21 and then multiply . Okay, so 21x minus 42. That was the first one. Okay, so this next one, I am going to pick these two to multiply because that is this one. So x squared plus 2x minus 8. Then I will multiply it by the 9. So again, I'm picking two things to multiply, then by the third thing. Okay, and the last one, I'm going to pick those two to put together first, so the 4 and the 3. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to remember that there's a minus on that one. So minus 12, and then times the third item. So if you can get this question, that's good, because that would be the hardest one of that style. Bless you, bless you. Okay, where I was multiplying 3 things, there was a minus in there. Lots to follow. Okay, last one. Okay, so this is a time rate question, so I'm going to do that little chart. Jerry and Kate, time rate. Okay, so they're painting together. So if Jerry were to paint alone, so Jerry's rate, he would be 6 hours longer than Kate. So I'm going to go to Jerry's rate, and what am I going to write? 6 hours longer than Kate. How does that seem? If they work together, they can do this in 7.2 hours. So that is a time. And then, so I don't know how long it's taking Kate. So Kate is Kate, and Jerry is 6 more than Kate. This portion plus this portion equals the 1. Okay, I'm going to pick a common denominator. So I'm going to do a k and a k plus 6. Okay, k plus 6 doesn't work because that's the number k plus 6. X doesn't fit into that. X is its own number, X plus 6 is its own number. Okay, what am I missing? So first fraction to the new fraction, I changed it by a K. Second fraction, I changed the bottom by a K plus 6. The third fraction, I changed by everything. So I changed it by a K and a K plus 6. Okay, so why is this question harder? Now is where it gets harder. Okay, so I'm going to go 14.4K, putting that together. And I'm going to do a K squared. So this is why it's harder, because it makes you can't isolate, right? You got to do a trinomial equals 0. Okay, so this is a simple trinomial, but to be honest, I don't know what multiplies to that and adds to that. I can't see it. So what should I do? Formula. So K equals opposite B, so 8.4 plus minus 8.4 squared, 70.56. minus 4 times 1 times negative . Ooh. Oh, it did factor nicely. How are your numbers looking on your formula? Are we matching? Did anybody get to the same place as me with the same numbers? This was good, b squared minus 4ac. Okay, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to cross this one off because Kate can't take negative 3.6 hours to do her job. So Kate is 12 hours alone, which means that Jerry is, and then you just got to go back and figure that out, 6 more. So he would take 18.